You know, the thing about being a Spider-Man fan is that it's been a part of my life. Ever since the first Spider-Man movie came out, that was also the year I was born. Spider-Man has become my icon. He was the first Marvel character I was introduced to by my family, and I have loved him ever since. Spider-Man has become a part of my life. He became a part of my everyday life. He was my icon. He taught me things. He was my merchandise, and I would buy every merch related to Spider-Man even if I could. Either it was the Legos or the shirts. I would go for it. Because Spider-Man has been a part of my life. And I've watched the Spider-Man movies ever since I was young. It's been with me wherever I go. And now, seeing all the Spider-Man in the same movie together, it's just...
I'm sorry, we can't talk about this part of the movie.
What do you mean we can't talk about this?
We just can't. It's a
Of
spoiler.
course we can. It's a Spider-Man movie. What do you mean it's a spoiler? I mean, it's about Spider-Man. We're talking about the previous Spider-Man movies.
No, I mean the spoiler. It's a multiverse. We can't talk about it.
I mean, it's a multiverse movie. You've seen it. Electro's in it. Green Goblin's in it. Doc Ock is in it. And you know I couldn't say the awk word.
No, I'm sorry. We just can't
I mean,
talk
come
about
on, it's
we
a
just...
Spider-Man movie. Why wouldn't we talk
I said
about...
we just can't.
Alright. We'll talk about no spoilers, alright? This is a spoiler-free review. I can guarantee that no spoilers whatsoever, alright? Let's get to the review.
Why don't you give me your love? Give me your love.
Spider-Man No Way Home is directed by Jon Watts. It is the 27th film in the MCU, the 9th project in Marvel's Phase 4, and this movie marks the conclusion of the Homecoming trilogy. The film left off right after Far From Home, where Mysterio unveiled Peter's identity, and now Peter's life is ruined after being framed for the murder of Mysterio. So Peter decides to go to Doctor Strange and cast a spell where the world will forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Unfortunately, the spell went wrong, and instead brings in villains from the previous Spider-Man movie. And now Peter must learn what it truly means to become Spider-Man and must bring the villains back to their respective universe. It's one of the most anticipated movies of 2021. There is a lot going on with my mind, and I'm sorry for the late review. And I'm trying the best to think on what's on my mind, on what can I do with this Spider-Man movie. And there's just a lot that I want to discuss with this movie. This movie was filmed during the COVID-19 pandemic, and I got a little worried on how this movie is going to be filmed because people have to wear masks, we have to do social distance and all that, and it really worries me. Gladly, this movie actually surprised me, and I was very excited for this movie. Everyone was very excited. Everyone was looking forward to No Way Home. They wanted to see the multiverse because not only that this is a Spider-Man movie as part of the MCU, but this is also a mix of all the Spider-Man movies. Sony is finally colliding the Spider-Man movie with the previous Spider-Man movies that they've ever worked on. And I was very excited about it. And of course, this is a spoiler-free review. Mark my words, I will not spoil a single thing about it because I know some of you have seen Spider-Man No Way Home, and I know some of you want to give me a spoiler or maybe just a joke spoiler in the comments, so feel free for that, or maybe something else that might be important for the future. So I'm just going to talk about the mise-en-scene. Maybe some of you have known that mise-en-scene is something in film that talks about the artistic view of the movie itself. And I'm going to talk about how artistic Spider-Man is. Now, we know that Spider-Man is a clumsy character. He's basically an icon. He's the evidence that young children could become better heroes, could be aspiring heroes. And with this one, Spider-Man really proves that. This MCU film finally proves what it means for Spider-Man to become a very full, mature, adult Spider-Man film. What it means to become a Spider-Man. And finally, we're able to see that with Tom Holland's portrayal as Spider-Man itself. We know that Spider-Man has done something wrong, and now he has to prove that he can be better than that, and that's something I love. This movie is also dark in some ways, in both the movie itself, and I know that some of the lighting is also dark, but at the same time, there's there are some sad moments that are happening in this movie. So it's not just that light-hearted comedy MCU movies that you get in most of the MCU movies, but there are moments that there are some dark things that are happening in Spider-Man as Peter Parker has to go through the struggles of his everyday life of being Spider-Man, that the world knows that he is Spider-Man, and all the consequences and all the danger he has to pass through, especially with these multiverse villains. And it was well put in this film, and I feel like No Way Home is finally that film who can finally make Peter Parker to become a true adult instead of being that teenager who wanted to become an Avenger, who wanted to be a very famous Spider-Man, and now dealing with that consequences of all the things he have been. One of the things that Miss Ensign helped is also the costumes. We've seen Spider-Man getting some new upgrades, but the thing about the costume that also worries me is the multiverse villains. I know that Doc Ock is back ever since Jamie Foxx was announced that he's casted as Electro, and the fact that he secretly teased about the multiverse. We were already hyped. We were already on the hype train despite being filmed in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, which also worried me that the film had to be filmed indoors because nobody wanted to know about what's happening with the film so that there's no leaks coming out. But one about the greatest things about Miss Einstein is that for the costume designer, you deserve this, is that the costume designer were able to bring the full Spider-Man villains back from their previous villains. And the best part is basically bringing some new touch to it. Like we see Electro getting a new form, we getting him some new looks, especially with Green Goblin as well, and everyone just being the same as the previous Spider-Man films. And of course, I have to give credit to Eric Summers and Chris McKenna for being the best writers of this film. They did a great job of being able to collide the previous Spider-Man films into this MCU and seeing how the characters interact. And I love how the characters interact, especially when Peter Parker interacted with this. Alright, I'm not spoiling it. I just want to say... Okay, we'll just move to the VFX, alright? And yes, speaking of the VFX, I love the VFX in this movie. The VFX is well put in this film. I love the way that they use the VFX. My aunt really admired the VFX with this film when I was watching this movie. And I thought the VFX were also great. They were really put well in this film, as well as trying to capture that multiverse moment in this film. And of course, back to the story when I was saying about Chris McKenna and Eric Summers being able to write, they were able to collide the characters when they were in this movie, especially bringing their characters back to the way that they were in the previous Spider-Man films. And sometimes we get some like plot holes, like we never get to know what happened in the previous Spider-Man films. We just left off to where the previous Spider-Man films take place, and that was what matters. But what matters to me is that their appearance in this film, and I love how the villains, the characters, they were able to bring their personality from the previous Spider-Man film into this MCU movie in particular. Now I have to give credit to Michael Giacchino for being a great musician. He's a great music composer, especially for a Spider-Man film. Like I said, it's a dream come true to have a very great musician, a great music composer to do my favorite hero. And now with Michael Giacchino, he was able to do that. But unfortunately, there was not much of him showing up in this film, and this movie felt very quiet. And at Michael Giacchino's score, there was no room for him to do some of the scores. Like, it's very quiet. And this is some kind of movie that I would think of. But with Michael Giacchino, of course, I would love to hear more of him. And of course, this is a different Spider-Man movie, and that's why we don't get much of Michael Giacchino in this movie. But still, his score is still beautiful. He was able to capture that environment and that situation that's happening in this movie, and as well as being able to bring homage to the previous Spider-Man films. And I truly admire him. He's a very beautiful composer. And overall, the last thing I want to say about the Spider-Man movie before my battery ran down is that the Spider-Man movie is one of the best Spider-Man movies of all time. Okay, I'm just gonna say the critic now is that Spider-Man No Way Home is the best Spider-Man movie that a fan could ever have. Yes, I said it, this is the best Spider-Man movie, and there goes my IMAX critic for the Spider-Man No Way Home, because I saw this movie in IMAX. And of course, seeing in IMAX is the best way you can see this movie. But then again, this movie is a true fan service, and I like to thank Marvel for being able to bring the Spider-Man movie the way we wanted to see this movie. This movie is not only a true fan service to us as a Spider-Man fan who understands the Spider-Man character, but as well as fan service to us, especially a homage to the previous Spider-Man fans who really love the old Spider-Man movies, especially for the culture itself and especially the adaptation of this movie. But then again, Spider-Man No Way Home, I love this movie. No one's gonna go out without saying this is the best Spider-Man movies or the best movies of 2021. And Marvel has done a very great job. Thank you so much, Kevin Feige, Amy Pascal, Jon Watts, and all the filmmakers in Spider-Man No Way Home for being able to bring this movie to life. There are many comedy movies, there are many dark things that are happening in this movie, and this is just what we need for a Spider-Man movie. See? No spoilers. Nothing said about the movie than just what's in the trailer itself. And anyways, just a random topic is that I would like to see in future Spider-Man movies for Spider-Man to work together with Scarlet Witch. I know that a fourth Spider-Man movie is in the works, but I just want Spider-Man to work together with Scarlet Witch because I thought they looked perfect, and I've been dreaming of this since 2015. Look, if Marvel couldn't get Tom Holland and Elizabeth Olsen in the same movie together, then I have no choice but to do it myself. Maybe I'll get Haley Steinfeld to be with Tom Holland before the Young Avengers set up. Just whatever you do, just bring Tom Holland and Bill Manette in the same room together and make them friends. Maybe I'll make a movie out of it. But then again, that's just my opinion. I'm also working on the script. It's still in development. I haven't started working on it. But you're gonna like the idea. But again, that's my review on Spider-Man No Way Home. Tell me what you think about the movie. It's a great film. You can just try not to spoil the movie for yours, man. I mean, I know there are leaks going on around, but just don't do it, man. It's not cool seeing the leaks. It's not cool to upload a film. Just enjoy the movie. Go and watch the movie. And one thing you're gonna do is after you watch the movie, you might want to buy a ticket again and watch this movie over and over. You're gonna have a great time watching this movie. You're gonna watch this endless time. You're gonna want more of this. And that's what I love about Spider-Man No Way Home. But again, that's my review on Spider-Man No Way Home. My next movie is gonna be The Kingsman or The Matrix Resurrections. I know I'm just thinking of watching either one of them or maybe two at the same time. And looking forward to 2022. There's some video ideas that I kind of want to discuss about. And I'll look forward to you in next year. So there goes my review on Spider-Man No Way Home. Here's the outro.